starting at 55, my goal today is to stop at 100 or about 100. We can see that instructions are solve for x, and I know for the four cases, when we have parallel lines and a transversal, from the four cases, same side interior is the only one that adds up to 180, but the other three equal each other. Okay. Well, in our case here, we have a corresponding, so they do equal each other. So I'm going to have 10x plus 10 is equal to 70. So 10x plus 10 is equal to 70. I know the algebra steps you guys can do, right? I think you guys are fine with that. If anything, it's probably just the setup. Right? I think the rest you guys can do. So I'm going to assume you guys can finish it, but if you guys do want me to finish them, do let me know, and then I'll finish them quick. Yes.
So for the 56, it would be 3x. 3 plus 11x, 3 plus 12 is
You said 56?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 plus 11x equals 12x minus 9. Yes. All right, so once again, yeah, 56, they equal each other again, because this is alternate exterior. And like I said, the algebra steps you guys can finish on your own. But if you guys do want me to finish them, do let me know, and I'll finish. X can be negative, yes.
Like for example, on 63, would they equal each other?
Looking at 63, let me see. They do equal each other because it's alternate interior. So yeah, we do have x plus 96 is equal to 90, because that little thing is it's 90. And yeah, x can be negative.
It's the same side interior that they don't equal each other.
Same side interior is the only one that adds up to 180. And that one we have example 61. Right, 61 is same side interior. So they don't equal each other. They add, add everything and equals to 180. Any questions up until 64? Jetta, how are we doing?
Good.
All right, put that away and let's pay attention. All right, now looking at 65, on 65 is, we need to learn that the three angles of a triangle add up to 180. That little question mark, let me call it x. So I don't know how big is it, so let me call it x. So the way we're going to set this thing up will be x plus 85 plus 55 is equal to 180. Right, the three angles of a triangle add up to 180. Like I said, the rest you guys can finish it on your own. But any questions up until 68? All right, so now looking at 69, let me take a look at 69 and 70 at the same time. So looking at 69, it says find the midpoint of each line segment. That line segment, we can count the length, right? It's 4 squares. Right? If we look at the length of the segment is 4 squares. So we can easily find the point in the middle. Right? It's pretty simple to find. It is, the coordinates of that one is -3, -5. Right? Because we can count the length of the square. But if you notice 70, we cannot. Right? 70 is not that easy to count. Like 69 was easy to count, it was 4 spaces long. But 70, we're going to use our coordinates. 1 point, the coordinates of 1 point is -1, +3. Yes? The coordinates of that point, the midpoint. You see the midpoint is this point right here. The coordinates of that one is -3, -5. Now looking at 70, like I said, I cannot find the midpoint, but I can find the coordinates of each endpoint. Right? 1 point is -1, 3. The other one is -2, -3. Right? I can find the coordinates of the endpoints. For us to find the midpoint, if you notice the midpoint, if you look at 69, it has an x value and it has a y value. So for us to find the x value, we look at the x values on our points. We add the two values and divide it by 2. So for my x value, I'm going to have negative 3 divided by 2. And that one I can have simplified. It's a fraction, like negative 1 1/2. But I'm going to leave it at that. So for the x value, add the x's and divide by 2. For the y value, add the y's, put a positive 3 and a negative 3, add the y's and divide it by 2. So we're going to get 0. So my coordinates are negative 3, 2, 0. Let me write that a little better. My x value is negative 3 over 2. My y value is 0. Once again, for the x value, I added the x's divided by 2. For the y value, add the y's divided by 2. That make sense? So on pictures, I gave you one where you can count the spaces, 69. I gave you a picture where you cannot count the spaces, number 70. But then I move it to 71, where you don't have a picture, you just have the coordinates. But you should be able to do this. The midpoint, for my x value, I'm going to have 8 divided by 2, because I added the x values, right? 8 divided by 2. For the y values, I'm going to have negative 3 over 2. I added the x's, divided by 2, and obviously simplify it if you can. So I'm going to have this as 4 negative 3 over 2. Right? 8 over 2 is 4. So 4 for the y value, negative 3 over 2 for the y. So remember, for the what you do, having the coordinates for the x value, add the x's and divide by 2. So it's always divided by 2. I believe the formula that I gave you guys was, when we covered this in notes, I gave you guys x1 plus x2 over 2. For the y value, I said y1 plus y2 over 2. I remembered in our notes, we had the formula. So that's how you do it. So, okay, you had a question? You can write it in decimals or fractions as however you're comfortable with. Alright, so this takes us up until 72. Any questions on those? If you're a formulas person, you want to write yourself some notes, remember, feel free to write on the packet. I'm hoping that the day before the final, you do take a look at it. Alright, so now, let me move into transformations, starting at 73. For transformations, you guys remembered some formulas. Remember that? I even had it on the board when we covered it. What I'm going to do for the final, I will have it on the board. That table, I will have it on the board, because you guys might need it. But the first part, looking at 73 is visual. Looking at 73, I know in my case, I can see the difference of the colors. I can see black and blue. I know your paper is just black and black, but you can see the writing. The first one has an arc by itself. The second one has a prime. So because of the writing, you guys know which one came in first. That one, it seems like we push it to the left and then up. So that's what we call translation. So I'm gonna write translation. And then it seems like we move 8 units to the left. So 8 units to the left and 1 unit up. So it looks like we moved it to the left 8 and over 1. And how do we know follow 8 points? Like all of them did the same anyway. I know we covered translation. I know we covered reflection. Let me find an example of reflection. Number 74. You guys can see how it gets reflected, right? Because one of them flips on the other one. For reflection, we need a mirror line. So I'm just going to come, to begin with, I'm going to say reflection across I need the mirror line. For me to know the mirror line, I look at my eyes, I and I prime. I see that the point in the middle is that, right, between my eyes. I see my W's, W prime. I notice that my point in the middle is that. 2 points is enough for a line, so I'm going to say my mirror line is that line. How is that line called? X equals 2. Perfect. Reflection across X equals 2. Remember, the y-axis is known as X equals 0. Notice that I switched the letter. Y-axis is known as X equals 0, so that one is X equals 2. So there will be somewhere you have that Y equals, that one is horizontal. Yes. Yes. Like that. X equals negative 2 is this line over here. All the way through. So yes. So let me take a look at one that we also saw, rotation. You guys can see it looks like it rotated. So I'm going to call this rotation. How many degrees did that thing move? 90 degrees clockwise. So 90 degrees clockwise. I'm going to abbreviate clockwise as CW. Counterclockwise, I'll abbreviate as CCW. So clockwise about the origin. I know we also saw dilation. Things got bigger and smaller, but I won't have that on the test. I'm only going to have those three. Translation, reflection, rotation. I said 76. 76. That looks like translation. Translation, 1 unit left. And 1 unit up. Now you move 1 to the left and 1 up. Left. So any questions up until 78? All right. Now for 79, reflection across y equals 2. So I know my y equals 2 is that line. That's the y equals 2. Find the coordinates of the vertices of each figure after the given transformation. Let me reflect it first. Notice the L is 1 space above the mirror. So bring it 1 space below the mirror. That's my L prime. Remember, for reflection, we count the spaces. Looking at M, 3 spaces from the mirror line. Let me bring it 3 spaces on the other side. That's my M prime. And my W stays on the same spot. It's technically 0 spaces above. So I bring it 0 spaces below. Right, so it doesn't move. So the question here is, give me the coordinates of the vertices. Right, give me the coordinates of those corners. I can connect my points just to look at it. So my coordinates will be W prime. My coordinates of that one are 2, 2. L prime, my coordinates of that one are 4, 1. And M prime, the coordinates are 2, negative 1. Which order do you guys go? It does not matter. I just listed the 3 letters, but the order does not matter. So do the transformation and then give me the coordinates. Yes.
So, can the 90 degrees clockwise, is it negative x, negative y?
90 degrees clockwise. So you're looking at 80, right? Okay, looking at the rule, 90 degrees clockwise. 90 degrees clockwise, it says xy becomes y negative x. So for us to remember how to use that, remember what that thing said was xy becomes y negative x. That's the rule that we need for 90 degrees clockwise. So for my coordinates, for right now, let me get my c coordinate. Right now is -3, -1. Hey, wait, Andrew. What do you think I mean 1 per line? Well, if you have straight in the back. Alright, so my c coordinates right now are -3, -1. My f coordinates right now are what? -4, -3. And my v coordinates are -5, -2. Right, I just got the coordinates that we have right now. Now for c prime, xy is going to become y negative x. So you notice that x and y swap. So the order is going to switch. And the value that was x, switch the sign. So switch them so that the x and the value get swapped. The value that was x, change the sign. So for c prime, I'm going to call this -1, +3. Notice how they got swapped, the x and the y. The value that was x, I changed the sign. It was negative, so I made it positive. My f prime, I'm going to call this -3, +4. They got swapped, and the one that was x, I changed the sign. What do you guys get for v prime? -2, +5. Good. I know the rules on the top, xy becomes y negative x. Like I said, I know you guys need that, so I will put that on the board. For your review, when you guys do it at home, I know you guys have it in your notes. Or should have it in your notes. Alright, any questions up until 84? Alright, looking at 85, find the missing length indicated, KL. KL is the mid-segment of a triangle. I noticed the side is 24. How big is the mid-segment? 12. Right, the mid-segment is half of the side. So the mid-segment is 12, right, the little one. Georgetta, pass up here. Even if you have values, like, let me take a look at 88. So I skipped a few. Looking at 88, now we have solve the value for x. I'm going to say -12 plus 6x. Notice how I multiplied the little one, multiplied everything by 2. So that's why I have -12 plus 6x. Like I said, I multiplied everything by 2 equals 4x. Right, on the long one, don't multiply by 2. Only the little one. So that's why I have the -12 plus 6x, right? Multiplied everything by 2.
How'd you get first?
There's the long side. The little one times 2 is equal to the big one. And then the algebra steps you guys can do. Alright, we're good up until 88? 87, sure. Looking at 87, I'm going to have 2x plus 40. Notice how I multiplied everything by 2 on the little one. 2x plus 40 is equal to x plus 29. And then solve for x. Whatever. Yes. Alright, now looking at 89, stated that three numbers can be the measures of the size of a triangle. Remember, the numbers are not in any order. They're just listed, not in any order. So I find the two smallest numbers, which in this case are 6 and 11. I add the numbers, 6 plus 11, and it has to be bigger than the third number. Is 6 plus 11 more than 12?
No,
Yes.
6 plus 11 is more 12.
Yes. So remember, it has to be greater than. If it had an equal sign, it's still a no. Right? It has to be greater than. What I mean with that, if, let's say my numbers were 4, 4, and 8. I'm looking at is 4 plus 4 more than 8, and you guys will say no. Okay, I made that example up. Then we move into question 91. I'm only going to give you guys two values. And it says, two sides of a triangle have the following measures. Find the range of possible values for the third side. I'm going to say the third side has to be bigger than 1 and less than 21. The way I came out with my numbers, 1 and 21, for 1, I subtracted my values, right? 11 minus 10. For 21, I added my values. That's how I came out with 1 and 21. I subtracted for 1, and I added for 21. Keep in mind, distances are always positive, so don't call that negative 1. Don't go 10 minus 11, go 11 minus 10. Right? It's a positive 1. Distances are never negative. All right, any questions up until 92? For 93, we have isosceles triangles. You notice how I have my two sides marked because those are the two legs. You can rotate your paper, and if you do stand it on the two legs, the two angles of the bottom, which in this case are these two angles, right? If you stand it on the legs, you rotate the paper, the two angles at the bottom are those, which we're going to call base angles. For an isosceles triangle, the base angles are equal. So one of them is 69, the other one should be 69 as well. For us to be able to solve for x, you have the three angles. I'm just going to add the three angles, x plus 69 plus 69, and I'm going to say it is equal to 1/8. Right, because the three angles of a triangle add up to 1/8. But the idea is, an isosceles, if you stand it on the two legs, the two angles at the bottom are equal, right? The base angles. How are we feeling up until 96? I'll take that as good. All right, let's take a look at 97. For 97, I have the three angles, 5x, 80, and 60. So let me add the three angles, 5x plus 80 plus 60, and this is equal to 180. The three angles of a triangle add up to 1/8. And then we can solve for x. Right. Any questions up to 100?